Good evening, Super League fans. Apologies for talking over the wonderful music, if that's what you're here for. But if not, then you're in for a small hour or so of chat, of Super League updates, of some contemplation about what's been going on recently with managerial changes coming up, etc. But nothing too heavy. That's the Aston Athletic squad, by the way, in case you were wondering. Is the league table, which is something entirely different. Just putting a few last-minute touches to the starting lineup of some of the teams that have been submitted already. But anyway, big story of the week, of course, Palmerthinaikos manager Joe Palmer resigning. Not with immediate effect. He's staying on until the end of the season and hopefully getting his beloved Palmerthinaikos side into the playoffs. Got to be cheering for him. I know as a chairman I should stay impartial, but with an outgoing manager, especially someone who's been a servant to the league for such a long time, I think it's only fair that we can root for him a little bit in headquarters as well. Joe's uploaded his own video talking about the resignation and the reason for it, and we all have as much as we hate to admit it, we all have different things to do as well. We all have jobs to go to. We all have families and things to look after. So sometimes real life has to take precedence over a very important football game, but that's how it goes. So we wish Joe all the luck, and hopefully he'll fill his spare time with something equally enjoyable. So best of luck to Palmer. To put to bed any speculation or anything like that about his replacement, obviously Chris Mack is taking over. That was announced straight away for that very reason, that I didn't want anyone to think that anything untoward was going on and there was any discussions in the background. It's been obviously a secret to everyone else, but well known to me from last summer, actually, from when we had the applications from various people around the world to join the Super League, that Chris would be taking over the first available vacancy when it came up, because he was a very good candidate. But we had so many, and as you know, some of the guys that have joined already have done quite well for themselves, already uploaded interesting videos and done various things. So it's a normal selection process. But I felt that out of the candidates, there were a couple of guys that I would have liked to hold on to, and I would have liked to offer them a position as well at the time if it was available. But unfortunately, I couldn't, just due to the numbers available. And unfortunately, Chris decided to stick with it, and obviously joined Ryan on the board at Bolton, and make sure that things were going well there. And from next season, he's going to get his own chance to run a team, and we obviously wish him luck as well with taking over at Palmerthinaikos. Be interesting to see what he does with the logo, etc. I mean, the whole Palm thing is obviously obvious. There's an obvious connection there if he doesn't want to change his surname to make it make more sense, but we're retaining the names of the clubs. I know there's been some talk about diving into the save game editor and having a little look at that, changing names of the clubs and colors, etc. And while it's possible, it's also a pain in the ass, and changing the names is probably not going to work. The other stuff you can change, but if you're not changing the name, then you're not really changing the brand. And I leave the creative side of things to Ian to do his stuff with the logos, etc. if he doesn't mind, which I'm sure he doesn't. We'll bribe him with some whiskey anyway if it comes to that. So welcome, Chris. Welcome to the league. I'm sure it'll be fun. No other resignations on the cards as well. Of course, there have been speculation about that as well. Who will be next to go? I think Hodgie was called out, not called out, but it was mentioned whether he had plans to stay, but he quickly confirmed that. I think Thiago will be staying on as well. I certainly hope that everyone is staying on. Of course, the league fully respects the decision of any manager who wants to leave. This is completely voluntary, and I think everyone has already earned their spurs and done their time for the league. So if anyone wants to leave, they're obviously free to go. You don't have to feel guilty about it, but I would prefer if everyone stayed, because I think it's a good group, and it's not too much effort, I think, for you guys, and There's no requirement to come up with videos on a bunch of stuff. Send Fifi an email once a week with a few updates, and that's pretty much it. And send your team in and just have fun. And if you want to engage, engage. And if you want to take a little bit of a backseat, then take a bit of a backseat. It's completely fine with me. There's vocal people enough, so don't ever feel any pressure to overcommit to it. If you're happy to stay in the league, you're happy to stay. If you want to leave, then we've got plenty of candidates lined up that probably would be more than happy to join, given the opportunity. Obviously, sad to see anyone go, but we do have replacements if anything, if it should come to that. But stick around, guys. It'll be fun. Next season will be fun as well, you know. And there's always that playoff thing to fight for. So you never know, even if it's not gone so well so far for your team. On the particular topic of things going well or not going so well, we can have a quick look at the results for the weekend. Start at the top. I think we had a running order. I seem to remember there was a running order, but I've kind of lost that bit of paper, so we're just going to run them from top to bottom. We have BTEC. Great win at home for them. 4-2 against Hooligans. BTEC don't pick up points away, clearly, so they've got to take as many as they can from home. Saw David Protton, who hadn't had too many games. He did a really good job there in the defensive midfield role, getting a 9. Buffon's been solid for them since coming on board. 8 all the way. You know, that's the first keeper performance of that level I think we've seen in the league this season, of straight 8 for a prolonged period. Results have maybe not gone 100% the way that Ian wanted it to, but still good to see Buffon doing a good job after joining. And Ferdinand as well, 750 average. I mean, clearly, when you pay so much money for people, you want to see them doing well. On the topic of spending money, of course, Edilson was another big signing. Kind of last minute. Ian felt that he needed, I think, some experience and some creativity and some goal scoring threat from a slightly older player, and he definitely got it by signing Edilson here. 10 million from Flamengo, so not the cheapest, but 2 games, 2 goals and an assist, and a man of the match award, so not too bad, not a bad return for him. Palermo still scoring, going quietly about his business in the background. 13 games, 9 goals, a solid return for him as well. It's not going so well for Hooligans at the moment. I think they're on a run of a couple of not great results. Kiotis is still doing pretty well in goal. I mean, good, decent average, but he's letting in quite a lot. What else have we got? We've got Walter Samuel Mendieta, who you remember probably got a 5 on his first game back from that long injury. He's back up to a 7. We'll expect him to improve. Yakubu is still very young, but it's a shame for him to pick up that 5 and kind of costing a bit of a result there for Hooligans. Maybe not on his own, but certainly contributing to it. Aymar could maybe expect a little bit more from him. As you can see, there's no really new names. Crosas is the only one that Hooligans signed, still out injured. So we'll see if Thiago does anything before the summer. With regards to agreeing deals, of course, the window is not closed. No players who haven't moved already, unless it's a deal that's kind of just about to close. No other players will move in this window. So a 4-2 win for BTEC Troopers. I won't say dominated, but they certainly had the more accurate shooting. Yeah, pretty good for them. Hooligans less so. Struggling a little bit to find goals when they aren't coming from Ronaldinho. Of course, Kennedy has come in and taken Beckham's place and basically scored a bunch of goals, but he's still waiting for both of his strikers to really start picking up. Elba's got a couple of assists. Salas, who got a chance, got a 7. You know, there's nothing really interesting happening there. And Elka, I think, currently injured, and Ronaldo on the bench. Yeah, maybe we could see something in the summer. I think there's rumors of a deal anyway. I don't know if it's completed or not, but there's rumors of Hooligans looking for a bit of striker swapping with one of the other teams in the league. I can't exactly remember who it was, but we'll see. There's definitely activity on the striker front. Santa Cruz possibly coming in, but we'll see what happens with Hooligans there. Bolton keeping up the pressure on the league leaders. Good, solid victory for Phoenix there. Raul getting a man of the match. Dropping him for a game has obviously done wonders for him. Dede still doing very, very well now, pretty much on par with Sambrota, I think. Well, not really, but getting there anyway with regards to the wing back. domination of the league. Bolton obviously having the best wing backs. You could argue Cafu, but he doesn't play in a wing back role, so I'm not going to include him. But yeah, they've done pretty well for themselves. I think Montella now with a 9, that's 4-4, solid average, looking like if not well worth the money, then at least not a waste. At 26 million, he wasn't cheap, and he doesn't have that many seasons to run. But yeah, a good investment if you get that kind of return from him. For Aston Athletic, it's a different story. Babel getting a 5, Placenta a 6. His formation is who served him so well in the beginning of the season, or which served him so well in the beginning of the season, is kind of like dropping off a little bit. And the strikers aren't scoring. I think he's tried pretty much all the various formations with the top 4 or the front 4 people. So the 4 different strikers that he has, and Del Piero, Brooking, Grosicki, who are the strikers? Smith, Hasselbank, Nicolau, Sonny Anderson. I think it's been a lot of rotation, but struggling to find the result. Defensively, okay, I guess. I mean, Babel getting a 5 is terrible, but it's also against a tough opponent, so perhaps not super surprising. Transfer-wise, new players, we spoke about Montella. Apart from that, I don't think there's a huge amount of interest here. Håkan Mild has come in and been solid. He's done 725 and been very Swedish and solid about the whole thing, which is what you would expect. Sonny Anderson didn't do too well and went back on the bench again, so we'll see. We'll see if Astor start picking up some point towards the end of the season. They are in danger of not getting into the playoffs, which is kind of a shame for a team that were in the final last year, or certainly a manager who was in the final last year. If his team doesn't even make the playoffs this year, but we'll see what Alf has up his sleeve. He's obviously a very experienced manager, and I'm not just talking about his age, but genuinely experienced. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see anyway what happens with Astor for the rest of the season. Stats wise, Bolton dominated. As you perhaps know if you watch the game. Lots of shots, plenty on target as well. Astor some good shots on target, but just not enough to get past Nick Matulin in the Bolton goal. Interesting topic that Ryan had there on Nick Matulin, that he's his like sort of league keeper, and then Casillas is his cup keeper. Was that it, or am I either way? Ryan, if you're in the chat, you can maybe elaborate, but I'm sure that was your point, that Casillas, is it Casillas you've got? I should know these things. Casillas is your cup keeper, or your final keeper, and Nick Matulin is your day-to-day keeper. It's like trainers, yeah. One's for going out and one for wearing to the gym or whatever, so I guess they both serve a purpose. Very good. Chudley Cannons, the up and down is the season going for Chudley. Again, not exactly a great performance. Sometimes his defensive midfielders just really perform, and sometimes they just really don't. There's usually one that gets a terrible score and some that get a decent one. Steve Finnan has a pretty good average and done well for him. Mourinho who was brilliant last week, is now playing a 6. There's just really a lack of consistency in that Chudley Cannon side. Estebaria, who'd started so well for him, had a bit of a nothing game, and Rossini, who's the top scorer in the league, had like literally no shots on target. So credit to Cannavaro and Palmerthinaikos, obviously, but that's kind of disappointing. Something that maybe chance creation wise, Timmy will be looking at. But and Mark getting a 6 after we'd kind of speculated that maybe he was starting to find some form. If you see the 3 7s and the 9, and then he's back down to a 6. But decent. So Palmerthinaikos on the other hand, let's have a look. Where did we go? Very solid performance from them, of course. Nedved, who's doing really well at the moment. Palmer was back to his favorite starting lineup and his favorite formation, or I say favorite, I can't guarantee, but the one that's given him the best results anyway. Sand getting back in the goals as well. Not that he's really been out of it. I think he's on 12 for the season. So second top scorer in the league, superb morale, and just soldiering on as a good boy should. Nikiforenko was back. Vasiliuk, who got all the assists. No one really. It was kind of loose balls or whatever. Salihamidzic got one. So a decent performance from Palmerthinaikos. Really 8s and 7s along the way. Of course, when your man of the match gets an 8, it's never like you're never like over the moon or anything, but certainly the results wise, he's got to be more than happy with it. Dida back in goal, a solid performance from him as well, but obviously Cannavaro doing the business, the captain there at the back, all on his own. Hadasimovic, the new signing, is on the bench. Was on the bench, didn't come on. You can see a hint of his 20s there and some 19s and 18s. He's really a promising player, and I'm sure that Chris will enjoy managing him for the future when once he takes over the club. It'll be interesting to see obviously what he has in plan for has in store for the club with regards to transfers and how he's going to play the different players. I suspect we won't see much of a one at the rear once once the new manager takes over. Anyway, decent performance from Palmerthinaikos and a great result, even if you would have perhaps liked a 9 or a 10 in there just to have someone standing out a little bit. Hornets did a thing with their tactics, which was kind of back to 4-1-3-2, but kind of not. And they tried a couple of new players as well and people in new positions. And obviously, it worked really well for Ljungberg, who somehow got a a man of the match performance. He's a decent player. It's just not often that you see him like pulling out like nines and man of the match performances. But he did well. He's either footed, so obviously fits in well on that side of the midfield when you have the benefit of being able to shoot from with both feet or however it works. Samuel Eto'o thrived in that role, running with a long run forward. We can't really, of course, as I mentioned before, kind of discount the form because it takes the Oceania Cup into consideration for a couple of games. But a really good performance from him on the night. Luca Toni was perhaps the only real disappointment after impressing in the Oceania Cup and on his debut. He's been terrible. As we mentioned on the call, as we mentioned on I spent too much time working. As we mentioned on the show, we should have Batistuta starting. We should see Batistuta in the starting 11 every week until his stats start dropping off. So he came in, scored. He's mixing it with the top scorers in the league as well, Sand and Rossini. Decent performance. Petrov, who he obviously signed in the transfer window, you can't go wrong with a solid 780 average or 775 in the league. Really the kind of player that you need to sit in there and your DM, if your DMC gets an 8 or even a 9 occasionally, then you're pretty much sorted in that position. You don't need that many goals and assists from there, obviously. Fullbacks did well as well, and yeah, solid performance from the Hornets. Churchtown, on the other hand, I mean, they did well, but Oliver Kahn kind of letting them down with getting a 5. That's very unusual for him. Obviously, this season he's been one of the better keepers, 8s and the occasional 7, but only conceded 21 goals. So yeah, very 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 surprising to see him kind of dropping the ball literally, and allowing Huddleston that win. John Welsh, who's come in for Estebaria, obviously. Surprising perhaps to some, but maybe not to the manager, that he's come in and done exceptionally well on that in that fullback position. He's not getting the goals and the assists that Estebaria was getting though, but maybe also more of a defensive player really. Coco, on the other hand, has been doing really well recently. Didn't get so much out of it. He was up against obviously Kofur, who had a good game, so a tricky one for him. But I'm sure we'll see more of him this season. Silvestre, I don't agree with not playing Thuram, Maldini, and Khan every week in the same way that Batistuta should play for Hoddesdon. So that's just the chairman's point. But that's for Kieran to decide, obviously. Davids, who's missed some of the season with injury, but generally been good, so he's kind of like the Petrov of Churchtown, playing really really well. Soroshinsky, such a great average, so many great performances from him this season in that defensive role as well. Edmundo, perhaps a little bit surprising, the double goal scorer considering some of the other players that are on the pitch, but yeah, 2 goals for him in a not ideal kind of game for Churchtown, but at least there'll be something to take away from it, that Edmundo is getting a decent return, 7 games and 4 goals and a solid average. It's nice to have a solid player in those positions to support your strikers, especially if like Van Nistelrooy and Owen, your strikers are not terrible, but they're not really scoring. So that's something that he can rely on. That at least he gets the goal from somewhere else. Mackay has been getting a few from those forward sort of AMC positions as well, but again, probably not his best game. Barry Ferguson got an 8, not deciding the game for a change. So yeah, that's more to come from him probably until before the end of the season. But with 4 goals and 9 assists already in his 12 games, you can't really complain. Either way, Churchtown had their chances, didn't really take them. Really, more or less, the keeper being the difference here. So a solid win for Hoddesdon Hornets in this one. Sloths failed to win, perhaps surprisingly considering Midlothian's away form, although it has been slightly better recently. slots have been very good. If you're getting that kind of return from your players, then you'd be hoping for a little bit of a better result. But the Midlothian, especially in the second half, did quite well. Taibbi getting an 8 in the goal for sloths. We have Kaka, who joined from Chudley, who's starting to play himself in really and getting some results there. He had a good game here. Rivaldo on the other side, on the other wing, has done well all along, so no surprises there. NDI, who's obviously joined him from Dragons, is starting to pick up his performances as well. So yeah, Sloths manager gonna be happy with that. Probably a little bit too little, too late for him this season, but we could see him definitely getting mixing it with the big guns next season, considering the performances of late here. This guy played. I'm not sure why. He has Vieri on the bench, so there you go. But he's not scored that much, and apparently he's leaving. I think Vieri is leaving to join Midlothian? Is it Vieri and Kessman? I'll have a look at my notes. Yeah, I potentially just haven't written it down yet, but I think he's swapping Kessman and Vieri and some money, maybe. We'll see. So anyway, Kessman is the one who scored and played, so I'm not sure why you would give up the 16. Is it Kessman or is it a no? It must be Kessman. So he's given up a 22-year-old, 16 appearance, 9 goal striker for a 28-year-old with 2 goals and 8. He's got better numbers, to be fair. So maybe Midlothian can get a tune out of him. Anyway, let's have a look at his new signings. But where's Back? There's Back. 4 games, 2 goals. 5 million, I suppose, is not a lot of money, but with the hype surrounding him, maybe we would have expected to see a little bit more. Great game for Steven Gerrard, still very young, someone that other teams have definitely been asking for. I don't know if Ian is looking to sell him, but I doubt it. He's going to be a brilliant player for years to come. But either way, he has got Duljac, who has now signed for the club. He's new right back. He's done a pretty decent debut. I mean, it's not the easiest game to debut in. He's pretty quick. He can defend, etc. High work rate, so I'm sure he'll get something out of him sooner or later. Apart from that, there wasn't really much to mention. Harry Kuehl is leaving, I believe, joining Bolton, perhaps. This is another one I should really check my notes on. Pretty sure that's what's happening, with potentially Alex moving in the other direction. I think that's how it goes. Well, that'll be interesting anyway. Harry Kuehl has obviously not been able to find his kind of like peak form here, and Ian obviously fancies using someone else in that position. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how Alex will fit into the Midlothian side, and if Kessman will get a game. He's obviously moving in. He can move into the midfield, I guess, if he wants to continue to play with AMCs in there. Now that his director of football, who normally makes these decisions, will be leaving, so that'll be up to Ryan himself now. Or if he wants to maybe put Raul up front, or we will see how he decides to use him. But it'll be I think an interesting transfer for both clubs anyway, to get something a little bit different when players play the same role, just to see if they do any different. Unnecessary, some would say, but you can try. By the way, it was 2-2, and Sloth probably should have edged it. I think Midlothian equalized twice, the last one coming just before the end. So yeah, decent performance from Midlothian, getting a point away from home there. Sloth will be a little bit disappointed not to take all 3 and leapfrog Midlothian in the table. Let's have a look at Swindon Devils. Well done, Swindon Devils. A 3-0 win over Ardsley Celtic, who are not a good away team in general, but you still need to beat them. And you also need to bring your decent performances and not just scrape a win and say, oh, okay, that was good. That was a really good performance from Swindon here. Brand new tactic from Fyfie again, with a completely different look to it. Pre-match assessments were that the spine of the Arsenal team was going to be too strong and run straight down the middle of the Devils, but I think the formation and the instructions of the Devils kind of made sure that that wasn't going to happen. And with new boy Ebiede from Al Jazeera, who's looking like a proper bargain. He's coming in here, 2 games, 2 goals, and I think he cost the Devils 650,000. So that's really been he's made a bit of an impact already coming in. The 25-year-old Nigerian, obviously. never really heard much about him before, but he looked decent. I recommended him, and Fife was more than happy to pick him up. Mark Vivian Foe, who we spoke about, has done okay since joining. He's had a 5, but apart from that, it's been pretty good. Constanzo good in goal. Montero is a shrewd signing. If he can stay off the yellows, then he'll be very important for the Devils for a couple of seasons, definitely. Cambiaso, if he can get a decent tune out of him, he can be a very important player as well. He's not the easiest one to manage, I think, but a good one for Swindon to have. And finally, Kluivert, who, I mean, whatever he does, then he needs to hold on to Kluivert and make sure he continues to score goals. A shame for him that he was losing Oliveira, just as Oliveira was maybe trying to find a better form here, but he put Elmander on. I think he's got he's got Zidane, he's got Emre, he's got a couple of players that can come in and play there. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see what Swindon comes up with in the next game. Arsenal Celtic, Joe Cole is finished at the club. We hear that the manager is unwilling to play him ever again due to his lackluster performances. We'll see if that sticks. Apparently Arsenal's completed a bunch of transfers. I am not privy to any of them, so I'm not entirely sure if that's completely true. The only thing I've really heard about is that his swap with Hooligans that was mentioned before. But apparently he's got 5 players out already, so we'll see where they're all going. There's a couple of other deals that or larger kind of lumped together deals that I haven't spoken about, but we'll pick them up maybe after we do the kind of review of the results and the performances. Disappointing to see Morientes only getting a 6, but of course he was playing by himself as Tristan is out injured for, I think it's 3 weeks. So we'll see how Hodge deals with that. Parafenov, not a guy I'm hugely familiar with, came in and did pretty good in place of Sauri, who's also been pretty good. I don't think the averages of the performances of his players has been Hodge's problem. I think it's more the away performances that have been pretty atrocious. Riquelme perhaps, and Joe Cole obviously the exceptions of being dog shit, because I don't know, that AMC thing just doesn't work for them. Whatever it is however they're playing or whatever positions they're in, that doesn't really work for them with that Arsenal formation. So that's a shame, because I'm sure they can do a decent job. Patrick Vieira, less dominant than you'd perhaps hope for in general. 747 is good average, but not good for him, I don't think. And he's not getting any goals or assists either, which is, I think, a little bit unusual, but maybe I'm wrong. But either way, Hodge will be terribly disappointed with that. 7 shots, 3 on goal, no scored. Swindon getting twice as many shots on actual target and getting the 3 goals in a solid win for them, where you could say they dominated. To be fair to Swindon, they did dominate this one. They don't dominate often, but this one was definitely one of them. And finally, we have the league leaders, Valen United, up against the Dragon Destroyers. Andreas will be disappointed with this one. It's basically champing territory, isn't it? 15 shots, 9 on target. Dragons have 3 and 2, and it's a 1-0 draw. So it's not great, but it's Robbie Keane. He got the early goal. Dragons stood strong. It was difficult to break down, and in the end, there just wasn't enough firepower in the Valen side on the night. Andrei Shevchenko misfiring again, 5 shots, only 2 on target. Captain's armband, I mean, his stats are good, he's playing well, but 7 goals for league leaders, I just think you could expect a little bit more, especially coming in and maybe like making the difference, and not coming in but making the difference in a game like this where you really need a goal. Dragons really needed a goal against Valen to have any chance of getting anything, and Robbie Keane got it. Valen United really needed someone like Shevchenko to step up and get that goal to seal the victory, and he just didn't arrive. Lisa Rousseau, who was back in the starting 11 after the mix-up of last week, got an 8, which is obviously good news for him, so he'll probably retain his place. We'll see what Andreas comes up with. Mark Giuliano, who's been on and off kind of good performer this season, a 7 average. He got a man of the match in that defensive role, and obviously they kept Dragons to only 3 shots and 2 on target, so pretty decent job from him. Robbie Keane getting a 6. Robbie Keane getting an 8. Fiore getting a 6 again. A little bit in the way, I mean, he's been good, 747, but again, could he get more out of these guys in those roles? I think occasionally we see them scoring low, and then they have a high game scoring a bunch of goals and getting a high score. Maybe I'm just being picky. He is, after all, the league leader, but I would expect a better performance against the team that is in the bottom half. Sorry, in the bottom 3. If we're looking at the Dragons, again, it was a solid defensive display. Again, there was absolutely nothing going up on front. I mean, Brozek had one shot. It's also a difficult game, a difficult opponent. Alan Shearer, nothing. Ryan Giggs got the assist, and Robbie Keane got the goal. There's got to be more output of those players up top. Really, he's got to get more out of them. Basically, Jamie, if he's going to improve next season, could maybe pick up a couple of good results here coming up towards the playoffs, but it's very unlikely to be enough to take him into the actual playoffs. But a couple of good results, I think, is really what Dragons need here, just to get a little bit of confidence up in some of those players that just haven't been performing or haven't gotten the goals. But yeah, Alan Shearer with no shots, nothing. So kind of the same performance we saw from Viduka, which maybe could indicate that it's a tactical thing rather than a personnel thing. But we'll let Jamie decide. It could of course also be a confidence thing of the side, and then away is always a difficult one, isn't it? For as we've seen for so many people this season. So that pretty much completes the roundup of the results. We'll have a look and see how that affects the table. We did that, of course, already on Sunday night, but there's no harm in having another look. Bolton, of course, protecting their. Let's see, just for Ryan, we'll see how many games it is without losing. It's 13 games without losing, and I think is it 4-1 in a row now. So yeah, really brilliant performance from Phoenix. And they are chasing down the Swedes, who are sitting pretty at the top, and they have been for a while, since game 10 actually. So 8 games in a row now that Valen have been top of the table. Bolton had that big dip in the beginning, but are now really establishing themselves as contenders. And of course, with Churchtown dropping 3 points, in that 3-2 defeat has meant that a gap has been opened up there, and and Kieran, who was looking at second, is now looking at third, and with 8 games to go, there's obviously a lot to play for, but it is looking like Bolton and Valen could run away with those 2 top promotion spots, with top playoff spots rather, which sees them avoiding the pre-small semi-final or whatever on earth it's called. We'll figure it out, but they'll obviously have 1 game less in the playoffs to play and have a slight fitness advantage, I think. So well done them. Churchtown, of course, as we mentioned, they dropped a couple of points. Hoddesdon Hornets winners, Palmerthinaikos winners. Aston Athletic dropping back down again after their defeat. Same for Hooligans, same for Chotley. Ardsley not catching up because they lost as well. Midlothian and Slots getting a draw, so nothing in it for them. BTEC catching them a little bit with Ian's boys win there. The solid 4-2 victory, and Dragons getting that draw, and Swindon, I mean, 5 points up to Dragons. It's possible, but they need to continue their form and continue to get results. So excellent table. It's really exciting. There's of course, I would have liked to see a little bit more from maybe the bottom 3, 4, 5 teams here. Maybe be a little bit closer. That would have been great. So we had even more chopping and changing. But I guess law of averages and all this, it kind of works out that there are going to be 1 or 2 outliers, and there is, because I wouldn't say there's much between Churchtown and down to, let's say, Midlothian, and then we've got a few below and a few on top. This could all change with a couple of results, of course. I thought we'd have a quick look at some of the players who's been performing very, very well in the league, but maybe the ones that we don't always speak about. So maybe do a bit of scrolling and see what comes up. Gary Neville, we have spoken about. Gary Neville would have an even higher average if he hadn't been played at bloody right back at the start of the season. He'd probably been doing even better, but he's been instrumental in Bolton's success. I mean, we give a lot of credit to Sambrata and Data. You can see they're up there, of course, in the performance table. But Gary Neville has got to be really important for him. If we filter out a lot of the attackers who get a bunch of high points and just look at the defenders, we can see as well maybe some unsung heroes a little bit. There's of course Fabio Cannavaro, who's done such a brilliant job for Parma, especially when he's been put out there all by himself. Cosmin Contra, who I'm giving a bit of a hard time actually for BTEC as a pretty decent average. So a few of the people that we might not mention so often, but Turam is up there, Jagatas is up there, Gary Neville is up there. These are of course the top defenders in the league. We're not counting defensive midfielders, because if they only have DM like Dede, then they appear here, and like Sambrata. So these are we can't obviously filter in that way, but the wingers are doing well. Um, those two Bolton wingers, they are really dominating in their particular roles. Sorochinsky, Barry Ferguson, Estebaria, kind of familiar names. The one I always like to point out, especially to Ian, is Kasten Ramalov, who's obviously done a spectacular job for Midlothian there. 773 average, 5 assists. Steve Finnan is a little bit of an unsung hero as well, doing a good job for Charlie Cannons. Patrick Paube, who I think were better early on the season and is now coming back into it a little bit. Decent for Palmerthinaikos as well. And last but not least, who should we pick out as a decent performer, who's perhaps a little bit of a surprise to see here? Let's do Balak. Let's do Balak with his 8 goals in 12 games. I mean, it's a surprise to say the least, but yeah, he's done well. He's done very, very well for for his team and for Sloss, and definitely I think that Rob will be very, very happy with his contribution, which is a little bit surprising, but absolutely great for him to have a player like that. Goalkeepers, let's have a look at those. Iker Casillas has the highest average. So how many games? 9. Yeah. So maybe Ryan is right. Maybe Ryan is just saving him for the big occasion and giving Nick Matulin his shot. 7-11. But good performances. Maybe he had some weaker ones early on in the season. Buffon is in there with a 733 average. Of course, he's straight 8s at BTEC, so Ian's got to be happy with that. What else is there to speak about? Nothing really. I mean, Landro got dropped, obviously, after his 4 and his 5. Bosnich has come in. I'm not sure where he is. He's perhaps not played enough games to actually feature on here. I think you have to play a minimum of something. He played 5 and got a 7. Oh, yeah, he dropped the 5 as well in his last game. So we've got Sebastian Freyen, who obviously came in from Bolton, who's got 2 games and an 8 average, despite conceding 5 goals, but doing well. So those are kind of the key players in the league. In case anyone's interested in buying other people's players, then you can see here who's doing well now that you don't see their individual stats all the time. Let's run through this. Let's run through the goals for goalkeepers, which is 0, and then there's the goals for everyone else. Rossini with 13, Sand and Batistuta right behind him. Surprised to see Sand up there still. Not much else to say about it. Ronaldinho is on 9. Crespo. Balak is the biggest surprise of the people mixing it. To have him scoring more than Shevchenko is maybe a little bit surprising. Danielson scoring more than Mpenza as well. I appreciate Mpenza's been injured a little bit, but 12 games and 6 goals. It's not great for him, I don't think. Conceded doesn't really matter because people have chopped and changed goalkeepers, and BTEC have the title sewn up for that one anyway, with the combined efforts of Abbiati and Buffon so far this season. We saw a missed penalty. Did we see a missed penalty? I can't remember now. Was there a missed penalty? Or a scored one, perhaps. Either way, Barry Ferguson has had 3, scored 2. Kluivert and Batistuta and Barong, the penalty converters of the league. I think Ardsley, Celtic are the ones who've missed a few as well. Assist-wise, Barry Ferguson sits top of the table. We've got Sambrota, we've got Giggs up there. Giggs playing that left back, surprisingly, for Dragon Destroyers, but it works for him. Ferguson got the penalty. Thanks, Ian. Cafu, Etzeberria, there are some big names in here with some big assists. Of surprises, maybe Willy Sagnol with his 5 assists is perhaps a little bit of a surprise. I mean, he's a good player, but not someone I would normally expect to see dominating any kind of table. With regards to the yellow cards, we've got, unsurprisingly, I mean, he already had Mendes, who who had six yellows in 11 games, and then he bought Montero to Swindon, has kind of sewn that one up, just like Ian did with the goalkeepers. So yeah, an impressive bit of yellow card purchasing there from Swindon Devils, if they wanted their disciplinary record to look that little bit worse. Montero, of course, with his performances, I would say probably a player that's worth taking those yellows. Red cards, it's only Sebastian Kehl, who's had 2 this season. Violent Bolton player there, with his reputation obviously preceding him now. So let's hope for Ryan that he doesn't get Wayne Oldham or Wayne Dade in one of his next games, because that's got to be a red for the German. Man of the match performances, Saviola, who's well, not the top scorer of the league, but the top scorer for Valen United, and a solid performer for him this season, has got 4 man of the match awards. And then there's the usual suspects, apart from Patrick Power, but maybe I wouldn't really expect to see that, but he's done well for Palmerthinaikos. Of course, we spoke about him previously, looking at the average ratings. With regards to pass completion, not something that really, I mean, it doesn't really matter at this level because the good players in the defense are going to pass over 80 and everyone else is going to be there or thereabouts, so it doesn't really matter. Tackles per game, we had Roy Keane way out in front earlier in the season. Salis has overtaken him now. Nesta doing well in defense for Astor as well. Tariba West did some good tackles per game in total. So yeah, and Sorocinski perhaps the impressive one, the Churchtown player that's come in and done really well this season. Dribbles per game is still Zidane that's leading that one. Morientes is obviously doing well, creating chances for himself. Tomadera as well. More interesting when it comes to the players that come from further back and have to create stuff. So Jagatos for Palmerthinaikos is a bit of a dribbling king. Good evening, Fifi. We were just talking about how Zinedine Zidane is an excellent dribbler, in case you were wondering. Shots on target is Barry Ferguson. He's the main man. 90% of all his shots are on target, which is ridiculously unrealistic if you ever saw that boy play. I mean, he was okay, but 90% of his shots on target? That's fair enough. Thierry Henry behind him, Boyer behind him. Interesting to see those two central midfielders getting such a good shots on target percentage, Boyer and Ferguson. Maybe that's why they're so important to their teams. Morientes is up there as well with Tristan, so that's the striking partnership for RC Celtic, but you know it's all about scoring goals because Alan Smith is up there as well, and he's not exactly done what those two boys have. Nicolay as well, 67%, and then obviously drops off after that. Average rating, the final thing that we're going to look at, Cafu is up there at the top of the table. I think still below Boyer if Boyer comes back and gets a high score in a couple of games, but considering that extent of his injury, that is very unlikely. So that's going to be between Cafu and Sambrota, probably the two right backs battling out there for that top spot. Sambrota, I believe, might have a slight fitness concern, but we'll see if he starts at the weekend. Palermo's up there as the highest rated striker. Just behind him is Morientes and Nebesand. Obviously there's nothing in it. It's more about the goals for them, but always nice to have your players that performing at the highest level. Apart from that, we can have a quick look at some transfer news. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through each club and kind of let you into a little bit. I was going to say into a secret. It's clearly not a secret because I think people have in general been quite vocal about it. But if not, then they are deals that have been submitted to the league and we can kind of do with them what we like. So we're going to run through them anyway in case you're curious. So for RC Celtic, the rumours are that Recoba is joining from Hooligans and Rocket Santa Cruz is going in the other direction. Whether there's money involved in any of these deals, I can't disclose, but there are players moving in and out basically. For Athletic, we've got Kalushny coming in, we've got Vogel coming in, and Constantinu coming in. And yes, they are all BTEC players. And yes, there are 3 Astor players going in the other direction. It looks as if Nesta, Emerson, and Ariel Ortega will be traveling from Oldham up the road to Barrow in Furness to join the BTEC troopers up there. I know that I said that I can't say if there's money in it, but if one team is getting Kalushny, Vogel, and Constantinu, and the other team is getting Nesta, Emerson, and Ortega, then you would maybe think there was money in it. I would hope so. Otherwise, it seems a little bit unfair. But we'll cover that later on this season. What the deal is and what it's covered by money and what it's covered by straight swaps. I believe Deisler is joining Bolton from Swindon. I don't think Deisler is in his manager's good books. I think he had a red card and generally not been performing particularly well. So he's probably leaving. We already mentioned that Kewell was joining Bolton. He's coming in from Midlothian. Alex traveling in the other direction. Rumor has it that Cherno Samba is joining the league on a free transfer, and that's Bolton picking up that young talent as well. We'll see if that one goes through. Apart from that, then there is a deal agreed and I'll make it public in case that anyone was concerned about fair play and all this kind of things with Palmer leaving. The only agreed deal that I'm aware of for Palmerthinaikos is Karagounis joining Chudley and Komandini traveling in the other direction. So that should cover any speculation about who's getting who and for what, and all these kind of delightful rumors that can materialize. Who else has got players coming in that we haven't spoken about already? Komandini, we spoke about him. Karagounis, yes, Karagounis. I think so. Karagounis, is that his name? Palmerthinaikos, Karagounis. Karagounis is yeah, apparently that's the deal. Karagounis for Komandini, fairly similar players, I think. Yeah, that's the story anyway. Jogatos. Who said that? Chris said that. I said to Chris it was a Greek fella. I didn't specify the name. So if he's disappointed with that, then I was gonna say, I mean, Jogatos is good, but and Komandini kind of is okay. That would have been a little bit of a tricky one. The deal is Karagounis for Komandini. I do have something else written down here. Oh, who owns that player? Who owns Ashley Cole? Is that BTEC? Is this another BTEC transfer, Ian? Ashley Cole is leaving, and Inzaghi is leaving. That's true. They are both Ian's. That's both Ian's players, so that's fair enough. Okay, so Swindon apparently is signing Simone Inzaghi to add to their Inzaghi collection, completing it effectively by picking up Simone. Do they have Filippo already, or is that my imagination? Why can I not remember these things? Yes, they have Simone Inzaghi. It's Filippo they're buying. Why did I think it was the other way around? Anyway. So he's going there. Ashley Cole is going there. I don't know what else is going on. Se Roberto is perhaps going in the other direction. Maybe it's money, one or the other. I'll catch up with my notes and put them into a more constructive spreadsheet with tracking and things like that, so I can see what has been going on. Yeah, the transfer market. 5 in, 5 out. Was that a good idea? I'll leave you to it. I promise that I won't make any changes to the transfer rules or the transfer market. So it is still 5 players in, 5 players out in the summer, and you can do swaps, and I'll dictate the prices. If I think they're unfair, then there will be money involved as well. Not unfair, but I think they're unrealistic compared to compared to what's going on. So as we mentioned in the previous transfer window, you cannot sell players below their value. Their value being what has been offered, either their automatic value or what has been offered by clubs outside of the Super League. So say Rivaldo is valued at, if I press auto, is valued at 10 million, but someone else offers from outside the league offers 15 million for him, then his value will be changed to 15 million. Let's take someone who isn't wanted just for a laugh. Let's take Zidane and set his transfer status. So he's currently valued at 7. If anyone bids 10, then I'll up his value, and Steven can't sell him for less than 10 million because we've got to have some kind of fairness in this transfer dealing, so people don't end up swapping like ridiculous players for nothing just for the hell of it. We've got to keep it a tiny bit realistic. I know it's a game, but humor me on this one. I think the winter transfer window went okay. I think there's a lot of people who brought in players that they perhaps didn't necessarily need, but there's also a lot of happiness from bringing in a new player. We all like to go to the shop and buy a new pair of jeans or a new pair of Adidas trainers, or I don't know, whatever it is. People get a tiny bit of a adrenaline rush or endorphin release out of buying, and perhaps the transfer market is the same. So I'm not going to prevent people from buying anything. 5 players in, 5 players out in the summer. It's going to be a little bit tricky to. It's going to be a little bit tricky for me to actually keep track of it. So I would like to encourage you to not tell me anything about any players that you may have or have not sold. Keep a record of it if you agree with anyone to buy or sell players, and then I will let you know once I have the proper kind of tools in place to actually track it. So don't completely lose heads and tails of who's going where and for what, etc. So I don't have to come back to you and go, oh, what about this and what about this and what about this condition and that condition, and are you sure, and do you have enough money, etc., etc. So please hold off a little bit. I mean, please announce it in the league. Please speak to each other. Please agree the transfers that you absolutely desperately want. Then there's no problem with that. But kind of, I'm not saying keep me out of it, but perhaps don't like email me because it's going to drown, or DM me because it's going to drown in DMs, unfortunately, at the moment. So yeah, that's it. But good luck with your deals. What else can we say about the transfers? Ryan mentioned that he'd been looking at Edilson, the BTEC guy, where is he here? He'd been considering Edilson prior to the league. If there are players that are outside the league that you would like to buy, I mean, I know I said that it's unlikely that some of the big names will join, which is mostly true. I will. Can I share that screen with you? I don't know if I can share Excel with everyone in YouTube. I can't be bothered setting it up. But anyway, we had a list of 80 players that you'd all come up with that you would like to buy, and I test bought them in a separate game, and I informed you whether they were willing to join or not. And yeah, and that still stands. So if you've got anyone outside of the league, a big name that you would definitely have would like to have a bid in for, then please let me know, and I will test buy them in a separate save, and then we can see if they're willing to join the league. So those players, you're welcome to email me if you want a particular region scouted. I'm not going to sit and scout 6,000 players for you, but if you want a particular region scouted by one of your scouts, then do let me know as well. I think I've already got a couple of scouts out for some people, and I'll let you know later on what they come back with. So scouting is definitely an option. Can we have a definite ruling on transfers if a club is changing manager? As soon as a club announces that the manager is going to resign, then he's no longer allowed to make transfer dealings. So Palmer cannot make any more transfers until the end of the season. If Chris, as the incoming manager, wants to discuss transfers on anyone else's behalf, then I don't have a problem with it. Whether he wants to make it official or not, I don't. It's no skin off my nose. The only thing is that obviously Palmer can't, we're not doing these kind of what's the English phrase for this? You should know this, Ryan, anyway. When you buy a company, asset stripping. That's the word I'm looking for, or the words rather. Asset stripping. We don't allow asset stripping in the Super League, so Palmer can't make any other transfers now that he's handed in his resignation. So that's the only rule about it. And of course, if I see any suspicious transfers, I'll veto them. But come on, guys, we're not like that, are we? So it shouldn't be a problem. So that's the ruling for outgoing managers. And I just encourage people to be kind of polite and honest about the whole thing, and give Chris a chance when he comes in. He's more than likely not going to play the same formation as Palmer has been doing. I'd be surprised if anyone did. So he might be looking for a couple of players. So if you've got your eye on any Palmerthinaikos players, and you think he's got an excess of players in those particular positions, and you maybe have something that he could use that's excess to your requirements, then yeah, if he reaches out to you, then please don't feel afraid to engage in dealings with him on behalf of Palmerthinaikos, because he will be the manager from next season. So that's kind of the transfer stuff. Let's have a super quick look. Last couple of minutes, we can have a super quick look at some of the transfer. Oh gosh, if I could only figure out how this. There we go. So let's have a look at some of the deals that have gone through. February 2000, is that where we are? Yeah, February. And let's have a quick round of hot or not. Ibrahim Saeed, hot or not, for 10 million. Do Arsenal really need him? Possibly. Good deal? Maybe. Duljac, too early to say. 5 million is a lot of money, but he needed a proper right back, and not Gattuso or Gerrard or whoever else he's been dumped out there. So maybe. Johnny Woodgate has left. Johnny Woodgate has left the building and gone to Palmeiras for 5 million. Arsenal needed to free up some space. Can I see a form guide, please? Yeah, sure, Fifey. What kind of form guide would you like to see? Jeremy. Oh, that's not one of ours. That's lower league. And if we go back to the previous month, then we can obviously see all of the guys that changed within the league here. So Ebieda came in, Shuaibu came in, Peter Cech came in. Ebieta's done really well. Not sure Peter Cech if we will see him in action for a couple of years, but a decent enough signing for the future probably. Shuaibu, I think he got 1.5 games or something like that. He definitely started. Um, and Roy Carroll, yeah, Boskovic, Baronio left, went to Udinese. Casas has left Chudley to go to Boca Juniors. Peruzzi has gone to Parma. Bartes Inter. There's a lot of players actually leaving the league. I don't know if anyone was just not interested in picking up Pires, Fowler, and guys like that. But yeah, a lot of people actually left the league. So yeah, interesting to see that it turned out like that. And then we've obviously got the big ones here. There's Montella, there's Buffon. These were the kind of early deals. Shearer went to Dragons. Stefan Dalmat to Real Madrid. That's an interesting one as well. And yeah, and here they all are in all of their glory. At the bottom of the value list, we've got Harasimovic for 50k. So we'll see if that turns out to be the bargain of the season. I was looking at this guy. I'm surprised that no one actually picked him up, because someone says there are not any decent Australian players in the league, and there absolutely is. Talon Martin is a ridiculous prospect, age 16. He costs 10,000 and he has like numbers all over the bloody shop of greatness. But it'll obviously be a couple of seasons before he's proper Super League material. But yeah, that's probably the best Australian player. If we just go into player and staff search and look for nationality Australian based abroad, see if we can find anyone. There's Mark Overmars, Shadell. I mean, there are people who've already been sold out. Albertini, Pires, Mutu is an option, obviously. So these are some of the guys where we changed the nationality. Del Vecchio, he's proud to be playing at Roma, so he's probably going nowhere. This chap here, yeah, these are basically the players that we've changed the nationality on. So you could have seen these already. There is a spreadsheet. There's a thing up there in the media bit where you see all of this stuff. Kovac, Luisao, Luke Chadwick for some reason is in here as well. Risa is Australian, Arca. There's a bunch of Australian people in here. Clayton Sane. Is he genuinely Australian though, or did we change that? I can't remember now. I think he's actually Australian. Bresciano definitely is, if anyone wants to buy him. And Tony Wiedmar, if you're that desperate. But then you've probably got bigger things to worry about than signing Tony Wiedmar. Seric must be Australian. I feel like we didn't change him. Can we click on interested? Yeah, but you know that doesn't work, Ian, don't you? You can, but there you go. And then all the big ones disappear. But that's not necessary. That's not a guarantee for anything. There's probably a bunch of these that won't join, and there's probably a bunch of the other ones that will. So yeah, I mean, that's in my experience anyway. That if you bid high enough. But if you want Gravison, I mean, he's better than Vogel for sure. Nobody wants to join us. LOL. Well, this is the same for everyone. All the clubs have the same reputation, Fifey, so this is the same no matter what manager you go into. So that's all that decides that. But yeah. Yeah, but Ian, fair enough. A rough guide is when you get below the when you get above the like 5 million mark or whatever, then obviously, yeah, it starts to be a little bit tricky, because then they're really quite good, and they also play for good teams, and they might be regulars at the club. They might not want to move to Oceania if they're over whatever, but if they are Australian, they obviously should do. So it's more whether the clubs are willing to sell them really. But yeah, this could obviously change. This could obviously change in the second season. In some of the test saves, I've definitely seen players like Del Vecchio and a couple of other big names turning up in the Super League. So yeah, it's definitely possible. Back to the form guide. I think Fifey was asking about that. Where are we going here? Form, whole team stats. View this one. Hope for this one. Form. Is this what we want to talk about? Swindon are eighth in form in general. Palmerthinaikos, oh, that's a bit of a surprise. So yeah, and Bolton are obviously way out ahead there. Sloths still third in the form guide with that draw there. If you're looking at home results, Sloths is not a place you want to go to if you want to get a win, because they haven't lost in 5 at home. Ardsley great at home, not so good away. Hooligans, they are really on a bit of a shitty run at the moment, with the worst home form in the league currently. And if we look at away form, then obviously they're doing much better. Although they did lose their last away game. Worst away form in the league. Yes, that's Ian. Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of L's. If you want to have a look at it from a table perspective, then we can do that as well. If we look at the home form here, again, Valiant United unbeaten at home. The only team with anything that resembles an unbeaten record, maybe. Yep, definitely. Unbeaten at home. That's the last. Well, I guess Bolton and Palmerthinaikos hasn't drawn, but never been beaten at the ICA supermarket car park. And down at the bottom, we have Churchtown with that bizarre home record, completely reverse to what many teams have in their home and away records. Swindon Devils at the bottom, but they're obviously improving slightly recently. If we look at the away form, Swindon Devils don't have the worst away form. They have the same away form as Arsley, actually. Midlothian have the second worst. Now they're picking up a couple of draws, and BTEC, yeah, that's not gone well. So and he's only played 8 away games as well. That's also a tricky one. Palmerthinaikos in a decent situation here with having played 10 away games already, which is obviously going to be of a benefit to them because that means they've played 8 at home, so they have significantly more home games left for the rest of the season. Valiant United, interestingly, with only 8 away games, one of the teams that played the fewest, along with Sloss and BTEC. Not ideal to have the worst away record in the league and only have played 8. We've got 5 away games. That's a tricky one. But we've got the new guys. You've got the new guys in, Ian. So and Ed Edilson is firing on all cylinders. So maybe you'll pick up some better results on the road from here on in. How many games unbeaten now? You're 12, Ryan. I think. Did I literally showed you that already. But maybe you maybe you hadn't joined at that point. Games won in a row is 4, and games without winning is Midlothian with 7, Dragon with 6, and games without losing is Bolton Phoenix with 13. So yeah, well done Bolton Phoenix for doing that. But as you can see, there's not a huge amount of teams that go on big massive runs. I think we looked at the forum guide as well, how the teams have gone up and down in the table. Has anyone been consistent? Ardsley consistent-ish. I mean, I don't want to take the piss, but yeah, some teams have been consistent. If I'm being rude and honest at the same time. But mid-table wise, Jutley have been up and down. Hooligans definitely up and down, more down recently. Palmerthinaikos has been kind of thereabouts, never below, well, once below 8th and occasionally a little bit higher as well. So that's kind of how the form has developed for the teams. Any other questions or anything you would like to see now that I'm here anyways, and you're here anyways? I was just thinking about the fixtures maybe. In case you haven't seen them already, this is what's coming up. So one of the best home sides against one of the worst away sides. That's got to be an away win, hasn't it? As Ryan quite rightly points out there. RC Celtic are at home to Valiant United. This is actually an interesting one. You might say that based on the recent performances from RC Celtic, which haven't been all that great, to be fair. I mean, they had a 5-3 win over Dragons, but apart from that, loss, win, draw, loss. Not been great, but home form for RC Celtic is they've only lost once at home, so not super bad. And as we spoke about, Valiant United, not the best away side in the league. Clearly not the worst by any stretch of the imagination, and only conceding 8 goals, but not unbeatable. They're not unbeatable. So that could be an opportunity for Ardsley, and they kind of need to win really to really keep the pressure on for the playoff spots. Astra against Chudley, that's going to be a yeah. I mean, that's really important for. It couldn't really be any more important for either side. So Astra, they need to start picking up their form again that they had early on the season. And Chudley being so inconsistent, I think. I mean, Timmy's going to take all the wins he can get, and just hope for the best in this away game against Astra. But it's going to be a tricky one. Bolton against BTEC, as we spoke about, that's a banker for an away win there. Um, Churchtown Massive at home to Swindon Devils. Uh, Difficult one to predict. Churchtown have been not great recently. I think that's two results now that have not gone their way in a row. Is it one or two? Was it two? Wasn't it? Let's see. Yeah, it's two results in a row that haven't gone their way, and Swindon obviously getting a little bit of a run going with 2 wins in four. That's not bad if you look at it that way. That's not bad. A tricky place to go to, Churchtown, but they again they're a little bit like Valen. They haven't got an awful home record, but it's not great either. So let's see what Swindon can come up with. Dragons at home to Sloths. This is really it's not for the battle for the wooden spoon, obviously, but Dragons need wins. They need goals more than anything, and then the wins will come as well. Sloss are really doing well, good form at the moment. So that'll be a tricky one for Jamie. But we'll see if his strikers can finally get some goals. It would be nice for him to see Well, I think Brosek got one, but to see Shiro or Viduka putting in some goals. Midlothian against Hooligans of the Interior. Hooligans kind of a crappy form at the moment, but not the worst away side. Midlothian really only picking up points at home, so a tricky one for both sides really. A tricky one to predict as well. Hooligans need the win, but not quite as much as Midlothian need the win. So it could be possibly possibly the home side might edge it by a goal, but you never know with Ronaldinho. And if any of his strikers ever start scoring regularly for Hooligans, he's top four easy. Finally, we've got Palmerthinaikos taking on Hoddesdon Hornets. Hoddesdon has gone back to, after a little bit of experimentation, they're back to their 4-1-3-2, which is working so well for them. Palmer will probably continue with one at the rear. I would guess that he's going to try and stick to his strongest side and his strongest tactic and get into that playoff thing. So we'll see. That'll be an interesting one. I'm going to be rooting for Joe for the rest of the season personally, without cheating obviously, but definitely rooting for him because he's been a long time servant to the league, as we mentioned in the beginning, and it'll be fun to see Palmerthinaikos getting into those playoffs and getting a couple of good videos out of him as well to celebrate. Let's have a quick look at the chat here. Some massive games, exciting stuff. Any questions you'd like to know, Martin? What, any questions I would like to ask you? I can ask you anytime, can't I? I was thinking more on the screen if you want to see anything from the game. But I hope you're enjoying it. I mean, you turn up regularly, so I guess so. There's not really much else I want to know, guys. So thanks for joining the chat. Top 10 looking at us thinking they can do it. BTEX lost Midlothian put 3 on the spin together, then they're back in the mix. Yes, Ryan, if they put 3 on the spin together, let's have a look at the chances of that. Games without winning, quite a lot. Games won in a row. How many teams put, apart from you, clearly, how many teams put 3 on the spin together? No one at this point in the season. Maybe in the beginning of the season, it was like that, but now, no one's going to put 3 on the spin as much as they want to. And who's the guy that's not going to get? Oh, Montella, yeah. Montella's going to get a bunch of goals as well. Radoy's stats, please. You want to see Radoy's stats? Yeah, you can, definitely. Let's see. But everyone else will see as well if you don't mind. Where is he? His stats or his attributes? His stats are these ones down here, isn't it? And these are his attributes. I can't remember. These are them. They're okay. It's not brilliant, but yeah, 20, doing well. One for the future maybe, but yeah, decent player. Compared to Kiel, I think Kiel's maybe marginally better, but he's played worse and he's got a red card. So that's not great for him. 2 red cards actually, but yeah, as Fivey says, the quality for their age, you could do a lot worse for a 21-year-old backups anyway. Boomsong, who hasn't featured enough, look at him, look at his stats. He's absolutely incredible. I mean, he should be playing week in, week out. Come on, give Shang Alan a chance. Can't believe Chris did mention that you should play Boomsong. It's quality, quality all day long. Did a contender for team of the year? Is he? Who's the better left back? Jogatos? Player of the year? Player of the year? 5 year? No, he isn't. Wow. Can I see Vulgaris, please? If you want a shock at how terrible he is, yeah, you can see Vulgaris. Dede. He's not bad, but you know. Click on all my guys, please. Sure, Ian. I'll do that in a second. Dede, no, I don't think player of the year. I think team of the year, absolutely agree-ish. Look at his form. Yeah, but that's only 5 games, 5 year. What about his previous 11? Anyone see that? Well, he's a contender. If you mean that he's in the top 10 for player of the year, but he's absolutely not going to get it, then yes, he's a contender. There you go. I'm thinking I might have to start choosing these things. You guys really tested me with this. Who am I clicking on next? Vulgaris, Midlothian. I need to go into Uatemian because he's probably so horrible and unknown that no one else can see him. No, he's not too bad actually. He's got decent stats for a 19-year-old keeper. Probably gonna have to like loan him out or something like that for 4 or 5 years. But apart from that, he's not too bad. He's no headman, that's for sure. But his average is dog shit. Why is he even playing? What? Wait. Oh, he got a 5. He got a 5. You need to see the team of the week portal and say that. I'll keep out of the team of the week discussions, to be honest. I have a feeling there's going to be disagreements in there. I can tell you what the team of the week is. It's no secret. It's no secret. There's a team of the there's a team of the week here. Look, so Roberto and Dede are both in there for team of the week. Eto was in there. Proton got a space in team of the week from the official league thing, and Pancaro, Clement. Okay, Neil Clement. I mean, look at him. Why would you not have him in your side? Yeah, 3. Well, you got a clean sheet, so you can't. You got a clean sheet, Fifey. So you got to have your defenders in there. They did really, really well. Were you not? Or did Bolton get a clean sheet as well? I was going to say, were you not the only one who got a clean sheet? But I think Bolton got one as well. So yeah, proper quality, proper quality. You missed Kluivert. 4 defenders. Yeah. No, I meant the 3 defenders that were in there for the what do you call it, for the clean sheet. Kluivert was in there as well. That's right. Who was the other striker that was in there actually? Palermo. Yeah. Palermo. I mean, player of the season for BTEC by far, isn't he? Nearly got 10 goals, keeping them in contention right till the end. And Proton. Interesting actually to see that how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of the 11 comes from comes from teams that are at or near the bottom. So yeah, good day out for BTEC and for Swindon, definitely, in their quest for I'm not sure what you're on a quest for. Yeah, something decent anyway, a good result maybe. I mean, out of it, it's harsh. I know what you're coming from, Ryan, with saying 3 on the spin. I just don't think they're going to get 3 on the spin. That's my only point. And you showed it yourself with your calculations today that points-wise it's going to be tricky to get that average with the games that they've got coming up. So who knows? Everyone's going to pick up points, I think. And 6 points gap to close is quite a lot. But yeah, if the run starts now, I'm not ruling it out. Anything we've missed? Any other questions before we call it a night? Did Manchester United win against that thing they were playing? I can't remember. There was a tournament earlier. Manchester City wins on aggregate. Oh, United didn't win. Liverpool won again. Yeah. Things happen in the real world as well. I think I'm going to leave it at that, guys. Unless there's anything specific you want to know or anything specific you would like me to click on or check. I've got a couple I'd like scouting. Yeah, DM away, and I'll have a look and see if I can get them in there. As I said, anything that you want to test by or any players that you're interested in, let me know. not like 6,000, yeah, because I do have other things to do. But yeah, if there's a couple of players and they're contenders, so as long as you're serious with it, then I generally don't mind. And Ian, I'm not having a go at you, by the way. Ian in Scotland, Ian, I'm not having a go at you, by the way. But you know what I mean. Don't send me like 900 names and half of them are dog shit. Then that's just wasting my time. If you've got like top tens or something like that, then or top fives or top whatevers of players that come out and are genuinely good, then absolutely send them through to me, and I'll be happy to scout them for you so you can see what you're gonna get. Some of them I might even have in a bit of a future version of the save that we can go and have a look at. So that's it basically. Who's on comms on Sunday? Good question, Ryan. Who is on comms on Sunday? Oh no, I know the answer to that. It's Stephen Fifey, because Stephen Fife has volunteered to do first Sunday of the month for all eternity. Signed away his soul in that respect. I, I literally asked you 2 days ago, Fifey, are you still okay for co-coms every first Sunday of the month? And you went, absolutely. So don't sound so surprised. Me, I've got evidence. Of course, if you can't make it, don't worry about it. We'll figure something out. It's absolutely not an issue, but I'm pretty sure you agreed very, very recently. Are you still interested in first Sunday of every month for co-coms? Just wondering, no pressure, of course. Yes, mate, no problem. Yeah, yeah. Palmer, anyone, as usual, anyone who would like to join, give me a shout, yeah, and we'll do either one or two co-commentators or whatever. It's all about enjoying it and having a laugh, and it's easier for me, if there's other people on. I mean, it's great to be able to chat with you in the comments here, but it's even easier if you're actually online. So yeah, definitely give me a shout if anyone's interested. With that, thanks very much. If you didn't hear my tribute to Palmer at the beginning, which wasn't really a tribute, it was just the usual rambling, but I said nice things, then make sure you watch it from the beginning. Um, if not, then yeah, take care, guys. Get your teams in, and we'll speak on Sunday. And that's it, basically. So yeah, thanks for joining. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and speak soon. Night night.